Okay, this is a question I get asked quite a bit. How do you get to travel so much? Back in 2002, when we first moved to Centerville, Rocky decided he is a geophysicist. He looks for oil and he's pretty good at it. He decided he wanted to go out on his own and be a consultant. And he said, if you just give me a year, if I think I can't make it, I'll go back to another oil company and get another job. Well, they started a consortium of oil companies, not only in the Houston area in the States, but all around the world. 3 times a year in Houston, 3 times a year in Europe. They meet, they all get together. It's like group learning in elementary, middle school, or high school. They get together, they look at prospects, they discuss why it works, why this was a dry hole, why this was great. So 3 times a year, he was going to Europe. Twice a year, they would plan the trips around my spring break and my summer vacation. But that got to the point where that wasn't enough. I'd had 26 years in education. My job description had changed a little bit, and he said, "You're missing trips." And I told him, I said, "You know, you're absolutely right." So I retired. The only thing we have to pay for is my flight. So that's why we get to go so often. And that was his quote. Jobs fill your pockets, but adventures fill your soul. The first location I want to talk about is London. In London, Buckingham Palace is one of the areas that has beautiful gardens and surrounding areas, a definite must. The changing of the guard occurs at 11 a.m. daily. Get there early because it's packed. You won't get a place to even see, and watch out for pickpockets because they're in full force. Hyde Park is very nearby, so you could go to Buckingham Palace and tour Hyde Park all in just a half a day. But the gardens surrounding the palace are also beautiful to see. This is some of my friends that I pal around with, some of the spouses that also come, and we've kind of formed a group. We call ourselves Ladies on Tour when we're together. This is the area surrounding Hyde Park. Happened to be there in springtime at that time, but all the gardens and everything around that are just meticulously kept up. It's just gorgeous. They've got walkways, of course, where people just come and stroll and sit and enjoy the scenery. Jog. At Buckingham Palace, the gardens around here are just absolutely gorgeous. And people usually stand to see the changing of the guard where that the big statue and fountain and everything is, and then they march in every day at 11 o'clock. The next thing I found out by traveling is what makes a garden, because what we think of as a garden here, that's their yard over in Europe. When they say, "Oh, come see my garden," they mean come see my whole yard. So that was kind of a learning experience for me as well. My favorite part of our London trip was visiting our friends in the area of Sevenoaks in Kent, because there everybody does take great pride in their gardens. This was just a side yard of their house. It's a very typical English cottage. This is all in the countryside outside of London. That is the park area right behind their house, and that is kept up by almost everybody in the area contributes and keeps that going.
Pocket park.
Yeah. Okay. This is kind of not a good picture, but this is our friend John and Julie's. This is their garden, and as you can see, it backs up to that park that I was talking about, right on the other side of their fence. But this is a better picture of the things that mostly Julie has planted, not so much John. But we decided to take a stroll. It's just little country roads, and it's so picturesque, so they were taking us on a kind of a hike through the area. And this is what you see when you walk down all of these little country lanes. It's just absolutely breathtaking. And like I say, a lot of the times the neighbors will all band together and take care of that. This is nothing like a city where anybody comes out and plants. They take care of all of this. even across the stream, growing like a moss rock there. I just thought that was so pretty. And we hiked along that stream. This was gorgeous. I'm not sure what happened to that tree. I'm sure at one point it lost its middle, but with the bulbs and everything coming up behind it, it was just gorgeous. And we walked around all the rock walls and everything, which I think added so much to the scenery. And we made it to the Kentish Rifleman, a pub that's been there since the 16th century. So, and that's my friend Henry. One of the places we went to, the first time I ever went to Europe, was Powerscourt in Ireland. It's about 35 miles outside Dublin. It's 47 acres of gardens. It's been voted the third best garden in the world. The design started in 1731. But the gardens include walled gardens, Italian gardens, a dolphin pond, Japanese gardens, and what they call pepper pot tower. There is a 121-meter waterfall in the state, and that's the largest they have in Ireland. This is looking across, I didn't take a really good picture here, but that is the dolphin pond because it's got a statue of a dolphin in the middle. But this is looking across to Powerscourt Estate. These are some of the more formal gardens. The mountain in the background is called Sugarloaf Mountain, but these are more what I consider the English-style gardens. They're all hedged with boxwoods and topiaries throughout. This is part of the Japanese garden, and I do have to apologize for some of my pictures because when I first started going over here, I didn't have a camera that took pictures. I had a camera, so when I started doing this and I started scanning and uploading, I thought, okay, this isn't going to work. So some of mine are good, some of mine are a little fuzzy. This is the Italian section of the garden, and if you'll notice, it's very much a formal area. A lot of statues that you can see, kind of manicured lawns. And this is what they call the pepper pot tower. The pepper pot tower was fashioned after the lady of the manor had a pepper pot that her husband thought looked just like that, so he made a tower for her, of course. The Japanese gardens, if you can see those walls were all made out of fossilized moss, which I just found to be fascinating. And that part of the garden has been part of Powerscourt since 1908. Again, this is the area they call the Japanese garden. And that's the waterfall. You do have to pay extra to go see the waterfall, which I thought was kind of a rip because you just drive up there and there it is. But I mean, it's like 20 euros a piece. It's not chump change. Okay, Madrid, Spain. This is the Real Jardín Botánico, the Royal Botanical Garden. This is located next to the Prado Art Museum. It was founded in 1755 with 7 outdoor sections, 5 greenhouses, 90,000 plants and flowers, and 1,500 trees, and every plant and every tree is labeled. It's fabulous. There are small cafes that line the lakes in there, and you can literally spend all day there. This is a picture of some of the structure around the lake, and I believe Rocky and I ate lunch over on that shaded area in a little cafe and just sat there and watched people in the boats for about an hour or so. All the walkways are lined with, depending on the section of the garden, some of them, like I said, more formal, some of them a little more laid back. There I am. That's, as you come into the entrance of the garden, that was one of the first things I saw, and I just thought that and the flowers in the background were so pretty.
Wow, that's neat.
This is the more formal area again. When you have the more formal area, it seems like they always use boxwoods to hedge the area and to mark them in the shape that they want them to be. But this is the rose garden in that area. This is a topiary area, which was very interesting. If you can see, they've, shaped up everything, and it's just almost like you're walking through a little magical kingdom there. It doesn't look real. This is my favorite part of the garden. This is a vegetable garden inside a formal garden, which I've been to a lot of gardens before, but I've never seen a major garden like this that grows vegetables. But they do. I mean, they had everything going, all kind of vegetables, some things I wasn't familiar with. And the one thing that I liked, Carol, I thought about you. They had a scarecrow. And as I say, you can literally spend the day there just wandering through and reading the labels and admiring the plants. Oh, and if you go to the Plaza de Mayor in Madrid, you might run into someone I've run into twice traveling to Spain. Fat Spider-Man. And for a few coins, he will pose and let you take a picture of him. But he's been here a very long time, but he's quite humorous. The next location is Kassel, Germany, which is located in the northern part of Germany. We actually had to fly into Frankfurt and then take a train to get there. It has a lot of elevation change. Inspired by the topography, the Hercules Monument and water features of Wilhelmshawn Park were created in 1689. The Wilhelmshawn Palace is located in the park where formal gardens and greenhouses are located. And the rest of the park is a collection of water gardens, natural woodlands with the Hercules Monument overlooking the entire city. And there's a restaurant right near the monument overlooking the city. This was the first thing I saw. The first thing day I went to Wilhelmshawn, I was by myself. And I walked in there and I looked at that tree and I thought, that is lantana. And they have trained it up to be a tree. And I just thought that was so cool. So the next day I brought my friend Rosario back and showed her they have a fuchsia tree. Back behind that they had plumbago trained up into a tree, but I just thought they were so unusual. I wanted to talk to the people who run the greenhouses, but they were closed both days I was there. I didn't know what happens to them in the wintertime. That's what I wanted to know, because this is very, very northern part of Germany where it obviously is going to get a lot of snow. But I just thought it was gorgeous. Uh-oh. There we go. This is part of what they call the water gardens. This is the Hercules Monument up at the very top of the hill. We actually took a bus, the ladies and I, to the top of that because it's miles to get up to the very top of the Hercules Mountain. And then you can spend all day just making your way down through the water gardens. But the water gardens are only turned on a few days a week, I think for water conservation purposes. They don't just run them all the time. So people flock to the times and days that they're going to be turned on. And they start at the top of the Hercules Mountain. It comes all the way down, spills into a reservoir, and then keeps going. There, I'm showing you how it goes a little bit. Yeah, that is the Hercules Monument, and that's where the water is pumped all the way up there. And that's where it ends. And it's gorgeous, but like I say, they don't, normally if you come there, there'll be times where that's just rocks. There's not going to be any water there. But those are the water gardens. There's another one of my fuzzy pictures. As you walk through Wilhelmshawn Park, there's all kinds of landscaping and structures where you can sit and relax and rest a little bit on your hike. These were the Baroque gardens outside Wilhelmshawn Palace. Again, this is a more formal style of gardening that they had there in different sections. And it was fall. It was very pretty. There was lots of fall color. And there's Hercules.
Very masculine.
Yes. And that's my friend Julie and Rosario. Okay, Schonbrunn Palace is in Vienna, Austria. And this time next month, that's where I'll be. Began as an estate in the 14th century. The palace consists of 1,441 rooms, and the history and gardens span over 300 years. And UNESCO designated the palace on their World Heritage List in 1996. This is the palace,
Oh my God.
and I didn't get a proper picture of it, but because it's 1,441 rooms in there. We did tour the palace, but they'll only let you go in about 20 rooms. It's very opulent, lots of gold everywhere. So they have a Baroque garden style in front of the palace, and this is one of my favorite pictures that shows you the span of how big this area is. That's looking from the palace, and those are all the Baroque gardens in front of it. And if you can see the teeny tiny little people, you can see how huge that area is. When this was first built, the king wanted the palace to be built up on the hill, overlooking the land and the city. And the queen said no, she did not want that because she wanted these gardens, and they're not going to work on a hill. So the palace is down at the end, and at the top of that hill is called, they call it the Summer Palace, but it's really not a palace. It's just a place to walk, and you can overlook everything in the city. On either side of the Baroque gardens in the woods part are walk-through arbors, and this one I just could not get over. It's a wisteria arbor. They also have, in the fall, they let the fall leaves change, and you can walk through all of that color. And then this is one of their favorite things. They have roses, climbing roses that cover the entire arbor that you can just walk under.
And all this just gets lots of snow and ice. And
Yeah. This is, and I thought interesting, this is what they call an orangery. The king and queen back in the day loved oranges. But of course, they're not going to grow in Austria. The king also liked tropical plants. So they built these beautiful greenhouses, and they grow oranges and tropical plants in there for the ruling class. This is the Neptune Fountain. That's at the very back of the Baroque gardens. And it's huge. It's a sight to see. And as you can see up there at the top, there's these little switchback roads to get you to the very top of the Summer Palace up there. I was there by myself that day, and I hiked all the way up there. And as I'm walking around, I run into two young men from Texas A&M. And I just walked up and said, "Howdy." So we had to have a little conversation, but it's just amazing who you can run into. But that it's just amazing to me too that most of everything you see in these Baroque gardens has to be replanted year after year after year because of the harsh winters that are there. And that's the view that you see when you're up at the Summer Palace. And of course back there, that's the city of Austria in the background.
That's where my mom was born.
really?
That's just kind of a ground level of what the Baroque gardens look like. Okay, this is my favorite place as far as a garden goes that I've ever been to in my life. We were in Norway, I guess a couple of months ago. I guess it was back in April. This place is only open May to September. In fact, it's going to be closed September 21st. But it's the most magical place I think I've ever been in my life. And it's got quite a story. This is basically in Norwegian, it stands for Flower and Fauna Island. It began in 1965, and it's an island bought by the Bren family. And they just built a family cabin here. There wasn't anything on it. They own nurseries all over Norway, so they have access to plants and knowledge. And in 1987, Asmund Bren, he's the father, because of health issues, he decided to move to the island permanently and begin planting the area, of course, with things that they were bringing over by boat from their nurseries. Eventually, the garden got bigger and bigger, and people began to flock to see it. After a while, there was a need for refreshments, so in 1995, his son and daughter-in-law opened a restaurant there. The restaurant grows all its own herbs, it serves dishes on local ingredients, and the chef's been here for 23 years. He's actually from Thailand, and he only comes for the season, and he brings his own kitchen crew from Thailand. So, and we did eat at the restaurant. It's just amazing, everything, real fresh ingredients. The island's only open from May through September and is only accessible by ferry. They have 2 tours a day, and each tour you can stay there, I think, 4 hours, and then they take you back and bring the next group out. But this is how you get here. This is the ferry.
Oh, cute.
It's very nice. I mean, I don't give it a good picture of how big it is, but I think they were bringing at least 60 people at a time over on the ferry. It's about a 20-minute ride.
Is 4 hours long enough to actually see a lot
Yes,
of it?
yes. But this is what you get to go through to get to the island. And you get to go through the fjords. You get to pass Preikestolen, the mountain in Norway that you see all the pictures of the people like hanging their legs off over the fjord. You get to go through all that. That is not Flower Island. That was just a small island that we went past. But this is Flower Island.
Oh my gosh.
That's an overview that they had somebody take a drone picture of it and put on their website, so I stole it. But when you get off the ferry, you can't believe what you're looking through. Now keep in mind, they plant all those annuals every single year. Every year.
Oh, wow.
Now the only thing that's there is the trees and the shrubs and of course the hardscapes and stuff. But it's just awe-inspiring to see. There's a lot of places that you can sit, have a cup of coffee, tea, a glass of wine, and just relax and take it all in. Rocky and I actually sat in those chairs for about 20 minutes and just listened to the waterfall and looked at everything around us. And if you notice, they have some tropical things, but they're all in pots because they've got to move them out. They won't make it through the Norwegian winters. I mean, when you walk through, it's just like every corner you come to, there's something more beautiful to see. And like I said, all of these annuals that are around the roses there, they've got to be replanted every single year. I liked this one because it incorporated the waterfall all through the garden area, and it just, they added all of these waterfalls, all the hardscapes and things. These were all added after they purchased the island. It's just like I said, it looks like Disneyland to me. It doesn't look real, but it's just awe-inspiring. Some people that live on islands close to the area, they are allowed to kayak over and use the beaches. But other than that, it's closed to the public unless you have a ticket and you get there by ferry. This is the new greenhouse that was not there when I was there. They were still propagating everything over in their nurseries all over Norway and then boating it over. They built this greenhouse, I believe, 3 years ago. It's not only a greenhouse, the restaurant we ate in probably held maybe 150 people. This part of the restaurant holds 600 people at a time, and the rest of is their greenhouses. And so you get to stroll through the greenhouses after you've finished having your meal. And I think that's it.